CEO Millionaire never smiled for 20 years. Then this song changed his life at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, slicing through the stillness of billion-dollar dreams. In the shadows of his penthouse, Douglas Harper sat in silence, his face a mask of anguish. 20 years, 20 long years without a smile. The city sparkled outside, but inside him, all light had flickered out. The emptiness was palpable, gnawing at his insides like a dark rabbit weaving through a maze of regret. He was the poster boy of success, a shiny meme of ambition. Yet, hidden beneath his tailored suit lay an unyielding desolation that thrummed louder than the city's cacophony. On this fateful night, something strange began to brew. It started with an odd noise, the soft hum of an old record player, long forgotten in a dusty corner of his living room. The sound was scratchy, grating, and yet it whispered to him a mysterious draw. Curious, he pushed the heavy glass table aside. The old vinyl spun slowly, like time stretching back to moments he dare not recall. He felt a lump in his throat. Could this be it? The song that would shatter his silence? As the haunting tune filled the air, it was as if the universe held its breath. The music tugged at his heart, wrapping his chest in a tight grip. Each note sang of heartache and hope. A shaky tear slipped down his cheek. Was this his moment? Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped, and shadows lurked as if the walls were listening. The melody carried a weight, a secret that felt almost too heavy to bear. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a jolt, Douglas stood up, struck by the sudden surge of emotions flooding his veins. What was this force that pulled him deeper into the night? The shadows danced like ghosts, flickering against the walls of his mind. Each chord seemed alive, wrapping around his frozen heart, squeezing. The clock ticked louder now, mocking him with its rhythm. Had he waited too long? Was he too far gone? The haunting melody reached a crescendo, the sorrow threatening to engulf him whole. But the question lingered, was this song truly the key to unlocking the door of his happiness? Would he finally break 20 years of silence? As the last notes faded into the early morning light, Douglas Harper stood on the edge of a new beginning, trembling with fear and excitement, unsure of what would come next. The morning sun crept into the penthouse, spilling soft light across the vast space. Douglas stood motionless, the echoes of the song still swirling in his mind like thick fog. A part of him wanted to embrace it, to allow the emotions to crash over him like waves on a shore. But the familiar grip of fear held him back. What if this was merely a fleeting moment, an illusion destined to vanish as quickly as it had appeared? He paced, his polished shoes clicking against the cold marble floor, chasing shadows that danced along the walls. The room that once felt like a fortress now seemed to close in on him. He could almost hear the whispers of past decisions, as if each choice he made had left a permanent mark on his soul. He swallowed hard, grappling with the weight of 1,000 regrets. Yet the lingering melody ignited a spark within him. What if he could reclaim joy? What if, just maybe, he could rewrite his story? Douglas grabbed his phone, fingers trembling as he scrolled through contacts. Faces flashed before his eyes, old friends, family, people he had pushed away in the relentless pursuit of success. Why had he isolated himself? Why did he believe that wealth could fill the chasm left by connection? His heart raced as he hovered over a name. Should he reach out? The thought of vulnerability paralyzed him. Just as he was about to compose a text, a chilling draft swept through the room, snuffing out the last remnants of warmth. It was then he noticed a small, dusty envelope lying on the glass table where he had pushed away the record player. He had never seen it before. He picked it up, his hands shaking as he opened it. Inside was a note, handwritten the ink slightly smudged. You've lost your way, Douglas. The past holds the answers you seek. Remember the song his breath quickened. Was this a joke? A cruel trick? Or was it something more sinister? The words hung in the air like a thick fog, wrapping his mind tighter with each heartbeat. What song? Did someone know about his vulnerable moment last night? He felt exposed, stripped of the thick armor he had worn for years. In that instant, the haunting melody echoed in his head again, each note now pulsing with a newfound urgency. This was more than just a song. It was a call to action, a crossroads where he could either shy away into the shadows or step into the light. With determination, Douglas slammed the envelope on the table. He wouldn't be a puppet of fear any longer. He could feel the warmth of hope beginning to flicker. It battled the chill of loneliness deep in his bones. Where was the song coming from? Who sent him a note? The city outside buzzed with life, but in this moment, it felt distant, like another world altogether. He had to decide. He had to find the song again. Grabbing his coat, he pushed the door open, the weight of years of silence hanging in the air behind him. His heart pounded with possibility, a near-forgotten thrill rushing through his veins. As he stepped outside, he had no idea that the chase for the melody would unravel secrets buried for 2 decades, setting off a chain reaction that would sweep him into a whirlwind of past and present. But he felt it, then a glimmer of something he thought he had lost forever what awaited him in the embrace of that song. The streets were alive with the chaos of the morning rush, but Douglas felt strangely isolated in the sea of faces. He moved through the throng, the note clutched tightly in his hand as the pulse of the city thrummed around him. Each footstep echoed internally, a stark reminder of the emptiness that had filled his life for too long. The note's message echoed relentlessly in his mind. The past holds the answers you seek. He brushed past a street vendor, the smell of fresh coffee momentarily distracting him. Could caffeine obscure the melody that called him forth? No, he needed to stay focused. The song could be a guiding light through the fog lingering from his years of solitude. Where would he start? His feet led him to a small park nestled among towering buildings, a forgotten oasis in the urban jungle. He parked himself on a weathered bench, the cool metal beneath him grounding his racing thoughts. He pulled out the note again, reading it once more, desperately seeking something deeper, something he had missed. What had he lost? And how could this song hold the key? Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through his haze. Douglas? Is that really you? He looked up to see Rachel, an old friend from college. Her eyes were wide with surprise, and for a moment, the world around them faded. Rachel, he stammered, memories flooding back laughter, late-night talks, dreams shared over half-empty glasses of wine. I haven't seen you in ages. What happened to you? She asked, concern etched on her face. You disappeared. Is everything okay? Her question struck a chord. Was everything okay? He inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of truth pressing down on him like lead. I've been lost. Rachel sat beside him, her presence a comforting balm to his frayed nerves. You don't have to be. If you're struggling, just say the word. You've always been one of the strong ones. But strength had never been about isolation. It was accepting help. Could he admit that? I'm trying to find something, he admitted, gesturing toward the city beyond. Something I lost. I received a strange note about a song. Her brow furrowed, curiosity piquing. Do you remember any lyrics? As he opened his mouth to speak, a musician in the corner of the park began to play a familiar melody. It hit him like a jolt, wrapping around him with its warmth and nostalgia. His heart raced. This was it. The song. Hands trembling, he turned to Rachel. Listen, this is it. But before he could fully embrace the spark of connection, a nervous energy crackled in the air. A sudden shout erupted from behind them, capturing the attention of the park's visitors. Get back! Call the police! A figure stumbled out of the crowd, panic written all over their face. Please help me. They're coming. The stranger's words hung thick with dread, sending a ripple of tension through the gathering crowd. Douglas' heart raced, fear clawing at his gut. What he stepped into. Would this chaos pull him back into the shadows he was trying to escape? Or could he use the moment to find clarity in the chaos? He turned to Rachel, her expression mirroring his own turmoil. "Do we help?" he asked, uncertainty heavy in his voice. But before she could respond, another shout pierced the tension. "Look out!" And just like that, the moment shattered into chaos. Would he be swept away once more by fate as cruel hand? Or would this encounter propel him farther into the mystery he sought? As chaos erupted around them, Douglas felt the weight of the world shift. The musician's melody clashed with the panicked shouts. The stranger's face was a canvas of terror, eyes darting like a trapped animal. Douglas gripped the note tightly, feeling it dig into his palm. "Rachel, we have to do something." His voice cracked, urgency propelling him to his feet. "Are you crazy? We don't even know what's happening." Rachel grabbed his arm, her grip firm but trembling. Douglas searched the crowd, noting faces twisted with fear, some people stepping backward, while others rushed forward, instinct overriding logical thought. Was the danger too great? A figure emerged from the mass, a tall man, wild-eyed, bearing down on the frightened stranger. Then it clicked. This was not random. It felt deliberate. The stranger's plea echoed in his mind. "They're coming." Before he could process the implications, Douglas took a step forward, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Stay there," he shouted to the stranger, shaking off Rachel's grip. He moved towards the man, fueled by a mix of bravery and desperation. "Get away from them," Douglas yelled, hoping to redirect the imminent threat. The air was thick with tension, and the musician's tune morphed into a haunting backdrop, melding into the anxiety thrumming in his veins. The tall man pivoted sharply on his heel, and for a moment, Douglas was taken aback. The man's face, dark and sharp, seemed familiar, but that thought vanished as the danger eclipsed all others. The stranger stumbled backward, heart hammering in his chest, eyes wide like saucers. "Please," the stranger cried out, "you don't understand." But Douglas couldn't stop now. There was a fire growing inside him, a flicker of bravery he hadn't felt in years. He glanced behind him at Rachel. She stood frozen, a mixture of fear and confusion etched across her face. "I'll handle this," he shouted back, desperate to fend off the unfolding disaster. The moment became a blur. The other man lunged, and everything slowed as adrenaline surged through Douglas. Instinct kicked in. He sidestepped, grabbing the stranger and pulling him behind him as the man aimed a threatening finger. "You think you can protect him? You have no idea what you're getting into." It felt surreal, like a scene lifted from a movie. As the meaningful notes of the song played on, a slow realization seeped into Douglas' consciousness. All the pieces were falling into place like a puzzle he had never known he was solving. "Tell me then," Douglas demanded, his voice rising over the cacophony. "Why are they coming for you? What is happening?" "Because I have something they want, something that could change everything." The stranger gasped, glancing nervously at the looming figure. A sudden silence enveloped the park. Everyone was watching, breaths bated. Douglas felt his heart pound in response to the stranger's words. His past echoed with forgotten dreams and unanswered questions. Was this chaos the very key to untangling the threads of his life? Without thinking, he stepped closer, the tension palpable. "What do you have? Why does it matter?" But before the stranger could respond, a flash of movement caught Douglas' eye. Another figure appeared from the crowd, this one wearing a dark hoodie, eyes shielded but intent. A feeling of dread washed over him. The air crackled with possibility. And as the melody shifted once more, so did the stakes. Would he uncover the truth behind this chaos, or would he fall victim to whatever darkness was lurking just out of sight? The answer loomed, just beyond the edge of understanding, threatening to change everything he thought he knew. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. Douglas's heart raced as he turned back to the stranger, who looked frantically between him and the approaching figures. "You have to trust me," the stranger whispered urgently, his breath coming in quick bursts. "They'll kill us both if they find out what I have." The implication crashed into Douglas like a wave. Swallowing hard, he glanced at Rachel. Her face had drained of color. Would she stand by him now? Just tell me what it is. Douglas shouted, gripping the stranger's arm tighter. His voice was raw, igniting a spark of defiance. Whatever it is, we can't leave without knowing. But before he could respond, the tall man lunged again, a powerful movement that sent a jolt of fear through the crowd. You don't want to get involved, kid. He barked, stepping forward, eyes wild with intent. The world felt like it was spinning. Douglas felt Rachel's hand squeeze his arm, panic radiating from her. We need to run now, she urged, glancing at the thickening throng of onlookers. But the stranger shook his head, his eyes pleading. No, if we run, they'll follow. They know where I am. You have to understand if I die with this secret. So, there's the chance for everyone to be free. A chorus of gasps rippled through the crowd. The weight of his words sank deep into Douglas. Free from what? Who were these people? Listen, you don't have to fight, Douglas said, desperation creeping into his voice. But we can't just let them take you. Before the stranger could reply, the figure in the hoodie broke into a run, darting towards them like an arrow released from a bow. The crowd parted instinctively, their alarm palpable. Get down, Douglas shouted, dropping to the ground, pulling the stranger with him. Rachel followed suit, her breath quickening as she eyed the oncoming threat. With a hard thud, the hooded figure crashed into the tall man. Just as he lunged, the two of them hitting the ground with a bone-jarring impact. Shouts echoed around them. The stranger looked up, eyes wide with horror. We don't have much time. Douglas's mind raced. He could feel the pulse of panic within him, hotter now. What secret could hold such power? Then he noticed something glimmering in the stranger's hand. It was small but vibrant, a glistening cube that pulsed with a strange light, unlike anything he had ever seen. What is that? Douglas asked, a dawning realization creeping in. It's a key, the stranger replied urgently, his voice barely rising above the chaos. To something they want to keep hidden. It's why they're coming for me. The implication settled heavily between them. In the distance, the hooded figure wrestled with the tall man, but Douglas couldn't tear his gaze away from the glinting cube. It felt almost alive, thrumming with energy that set every nerve in his body on high alert. They'll kill for it, the stranger warned, his voice shaking. We need to get away. The thrashing figures in the crowd drew closer, and Douglas could see onlookers now pulling out their phones, recording the unfolding drama. Fear throbbed in the air like a living thing. Suddenly, he realized that whatever happened next could change everything, not just for them, but for the world itself. With a final glance at Rachel, determination surged within Douglas. The stakes were too high to retreat now. Follow my lead, he said, gripping the stranger tightly as he pulled him back into the fray. They had to escape this madness and find out just how deep this conspiracy are in as they raced away. The music faded into the background, becoming just a muted thrum against the chaos. What awaited them beyond the safety of the park? Would they find allies, or would they deepen the shadows that loomed ominously behind them? The answer lingered in the air, a question they couldn't ignore. The pounding of Douglas's heart matched the chaos enveloping them. He sprinted through the crowd, adrenaline coursing through his veins, the stranger clutched tightly by his side. Rachel was right behind them, her footsteps echoing fear and uncertainty. The neon lights of the park reflected off the frantic expressions of the crowd, casting strange shadows that danced with their movements. Where do we go? Douglas shouted over the cacophony of voices. The stranger, eyes wide, shifted slightly in his grasp. He shook his head, panic threading through his features. Anywhere but here. We need to get off the street, he implored, glancing back over his shoulder. The tall man was back on his feet, the hooded figure no longer a distraction, now a target. Douglas spotted an alley to the left, just beyond a cluster of food trucks. He veered sharply in that direction, leading the way. This way. He pushed through the throng, heart racing, breath quickening. They were a heartbeat away from disaster. Once they ducked into the narrow alley, the sounds of the park faded, a muffled echo, a distant carnival compared to the sudden chill in the air. The brick walls pressed in around them, closing off the world. Where is it? Douglas snapped, looking urgently at the stranger. What is so special about that cube? The stranger took a ragged breath, trying to calm himself as they leaned against the wall, trying to blend into the shadows. He held the cube before them, its light fluctuating with an eerie glow. This isn't just a key, it's a weapon, he replied, voice hoarse. A weapon they don't want anyone to have. It can expose everything, every crime, every secret. It could topple systems. The words sank deep into Douglas. Systems? He echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, powerful people. They'll do anything to stop us from revealing it. The stranger looked frantic, eyes darting as though the very walls might betray their presence. Rachel's breath hitched beside him. And what if they find us? What if they know we're here? Before anyone could answer, a loud crash rang out from the alley entrance. The tall man barreled through, heaving with rage, his silhouette looming like a storm cloud against the light. You think you could just run? He growled, as the hooded figure emerged behind him, chest heaving. Douglas felt a throbbing dread. Their time was unraveling. He shot a look at the stranger, desperation pouring out. Do we use it? Is there time? Not yet. We need a chance. The stranger insisted, breathing heavily. But the sound of the tall man's booming voice interjected. You're outnumbered. He pushed forward, grabbing a trash can and tossing it aside, stepping closer. You're nothing. Hand it over, and maybe I'll let you walk away. Not happening, Douglas shouted, tuning out fear, fueled instead by a surge of courage. He took a step forward, the cube glowing brightly in the stranger's grip. It pulsed, almost answering the threat that loomed before them. From somewhere behind them, another figure slipped into view, a woman, wearing a leather jacket, wild hair framing her fierce expression. Get back, she shouted, leading with intensity. You don't want to do this. The tall man halted, confusion flickering on his face, but the moment stretched. This was the slip they needed. Now, Douglas yelled, pushing the stranger forward, thrusting the cube at him. You have to activate it. The stranger's hands trembled as he held it out, but just as the cube's surface shimmered with energy, a scream erupted from the crowd behind them. Damn it! Rachel gasped, her eyes wide. As the stranger fumbled, the tall man lunged, and for a split second, everything hung in the balance. The cube flickered, caught between forces too powerful to comprehend. Would they harness its potential or bring doom upon themselves? And in that charged silence, it hit Douglas this wasn't just about survival. It was about a fight for something greater. The moment stretched. What if this was the beginning of everything they feared? As they poised on the edge of chaos, the future fluorescent and uncertain, the world held its breath, waiting for the next heartbeat to sound. The world around them exploded into chaos as a second scream pierced the air, sending waves of panic through the alley. The tall man, fueled by fury, surged forward, eyes glimmering with malevolence. Douglas could feel the heat radiating off him, a storm ready to unleash its fury. The stranger nearly dropped the glowing cube, its light flickering erratically like a heartbeat caught in a snare. I can't, he cried out, fear constricting his voice. It's too unstable. We need to open it. Rachel shouted, her voice sharp, cutting through the noise. Use it now. In the brief moment of confusion, something in Douglas snapped. You heard her. Activate it. He felt charged with determination, as if the weight of the world rested upon his shoulders. The stranger hesitated, and the moment stretched too long. The tall man advanced, a predator closing in on its prey, and Douglas couldn't let fear win. He surged forward, ready to tackle the man if needed. Just do it. With trembling hands, the stranger steadied the cube, his eyes locked onto its swirling light. He took a deep breath and pressed his fingers against its smooth surface. The cube pulsed, brightening as a hum vibrated through the alley, filling the air with an electric energy that seemed to stop time. What is happening? Rachel gasped, eyes darting between the two men. I don't know, the stranger admitted, panic creeping back into his voice. But before he could pull away, the cube released a blinding flash, and time bent. Images and voices cascaded around them, swirling like a storm as if realities were colliding, past and future crashing together. Just then, the hooded figure slipped into the alley, moving with deadly silence, eyes locked on the cube. A predatory grin crept across his face. "Fools! You think you can use it? You have no idea what you're meddling with." Douglas felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with dread. "UNT, take it from us," he declared, stepping protectively in front of the stranger. The figure laughed a low, guttural sound that shadowed the alley. "You underestimate what's at stake." He took a menacing step forward, and the light from the cube flickered like a heartbeat caught in turmoil. "Hold on," the stranger shouted as the energy coiled around them, ready to burst. Suddenly, the noise from the street faded, the world dissolving into a surreal quiet. Built-up tension cracked like ice underfoot, and the cube's light expanded, revealing a series of fragmented images, a cityscape ablaze, shadowy figures exchanging hushed whispers, and a distant echo of laughter turned to despair. "Do you see it?" the stranger yelled, eyes wide, filled with realization. "This isn't just about us. It's bigger." But before anyone could process the unfolding visions, the tall man lunged again, arms outstretched, trying to snatch the cube from the stranger's grip. The energy from the cube surged violently, filling the alley with a dazzling light. Everything spun. Suddenly, Douglas felt himself pulled into the heart of the light, a blinding flash that ignited his senses. In that split second, he glimpsed a future rife with chaos, but also with hope. It was a struggle for truth amidst lies, a battle not just for survival, but for a chance to rewrite fate. As reality snapped back painfully into place, Douglas landed hard against the cobblestone. He blinked against the residual glow, disoriented. Chaos erupted again as screams erupted from the street, a cacophony, shifting and morphing into a war cry against the shadows. "What the hell did we just unleash?" Rachel's voice trembled, ricocheting against his eardrums. "We're in over our heads," Douglas whispered, heart hammering. Yet in the midst of terror, something inside him sparked this was just the beginning. And then came the realization fingers on that cube had begun to groove with contours. It was calling for more than just their survival. It was a summoning. Behind them, the hooded figure straightened, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "You just made the worst mistake of your lives, and now you'll face the consequences." With that ominous declaration hanging in the air, Douglas felt an icy grip around his heart. They weren't just fighting for their lives, they had set something monumental in motion. What would the consequences be? The light flickered again, and with a final pulse, it seemed to whisper a promise, or perhaps a warning. What had they unlocked? The moment the alley blinked back to its chaotic reality, their surroundings felt sharper, yet more menacing. Dark shadows clawed at the edges of their vision, and the air vibrated with tension. The hooded figure grinned wider, revealing teeth that gleamed like shards of glass. "Listen closely," he hissed, moving closer. "The cube doesn't just show glimpses. It can bend time. It's a weapon, one you can't hope to control." Douglas pushed against the ground, energy coursing through his veins. "We're not going to let you take it." The stranger, still holding the cube, swallowed hard, his face pale. "But what if he's right? What if it really is unstable?" "No." Rachel's voice sliced through the noise like a knife. "We need to fight, not question this. We've already made this choice." As if in response, the cube pulsed, waves of light crashing outward like ocean waves against the cliffs. The visions swirled again, and Douglas felt the pulse of urgency. What had they glimpsed before? A future only half-formed, fractured echoes of laughter turned to sobs. This was not a simple fight for survival. The tall man lunged forward, and Douglas braced himself, ready to block him. "We're not giving this up," he shouted. The air crackled around them like static, charged with anticipation, but it was too late. The tall man was strong, and he slammed against Douglas, sending him sprawling onto the cobblestones. Pain shot up his side as he let out a gasp. The stranger dropped the cube, its light flickered dangerously, tumbling toward the ground. "No!" Rachel screamed, lunging for it, but before she could reach it, the hooded figure snatched it from the air. "Fools!" he taunted, his eyes glinting with triumph. In seconds, he pressed his palm firmly against the cube, and it erupted into a blinding radiance. A cataclysmic roar shook the alley, a terrifying chorus that seemed to wail through time itself. Images flashed again, buildings crumbling, people running, all disappearing into a swirling void. "Stop it!" the stranger shouted frantically, but the hooded figure's laughter rang out, echoing like a death knell. "You have no idea what you've done," he howled, his face a mask of exhilaration, dancing on the edge of madness and powered. In that instant, Douglas felt the world shift. The ground quaked beneath them, reality fracturing like glass. He instinctively reached for a piece of the cube's light that still danced in the air around them, something primal woken within him. There was an instinct to pull it back, a call to unite against the darkness that threatened to consume them. "Come on, help me," he yelled to Rachel, desperation twisting in his chest. Together, they pushed through the haze of fear and disorientation. The stranger, regaining composure, stepped alongside them. "What do we do now?" In unison, their eyes turned toward the man who now wielded the cube's power. Douglas felt a swell of defiance. "We take it back. Ready?" Before they could react further, the ground exploded with an earth-shattering sound. They all flew back, landing hard, breath knocked out of them as the alley began to warp and twist, collapsing into a rift that opened beneath them. The torn reality groaned and sputtered. Their last connection to the world before them was severed. The void wasn't just darkness. It swirled with colors and voices, a cacophony of everything they had ever faced or known. Falling through, Douglas realized this wasn't just a battle for the cube. It was a fight for their very essence. "Are you ready to face your future?" The hooded figure sneered, as his smile twisted into something both haunting and challenging. "Let us see what you can do," Douglas shot back, gathering every ounce of courage he had left. They spiraled down deeper into the unknown, an uncertain plunge into whatever lurked beyond. What awaited them at the bottom? Darkness? Or a chance for redemption? The air hummed with energy, alive with potential. Would they return? Or had they just sealed their fate? The world around them dipped into an unsettling swirl of colors and muffled echoes, like a dream teetering on the edge of nightmare. The ground shifted beneath Douglas, the walls of the alley nowhere to be found, the air thick with an electric charge that seemed to pull him in every direction. His heartbeat raced, drowning out the cacophony. "Rachel!" he shouted, panic rising in his throat. But all he heard was the distant sound of chaos, a hollow wind that cut through the very fabric of their reality. Where was she? Were they separated? With a desperate twist, he felt for her, reaching through the void. Just as fear tightened its grip, an arm grasped his strong, familiar. "I'm here." Rachel's voice pierced through the haze, igniting a flicker of hope. But everything felt wrong. Shadows swirled around them, dark and menacing. The hooded figure's laugh echoed like thunder, reverberating through the void, mocking their fear. "You cannot escape what you are. Time will bend, and you will face your past and your future." The moment hung like a taut string ready to snap. Around them, scenes began to emerge from the chaos. Flashes of moments long gone, laughing faces twisting into memories of betrayal. Douglas felt a weight pile on his chest as familiar figures danced in and out of focus, friends, family, specters of his regrets. "Don't look away from me." Rachel's urgent whisper brought him back. "Focus, Douglas. We have to hold on to each other." They steadied themselves, grounding themselves in the connection they shared. Energy surged, brightening the dark corners of the void. In this formless space, it felt like their bond was a lifeline threaded through the chaos. "Let us see how strong you really are," the hooded figure taunted. His grin widened as he raised the cube once more, its light pulsating ominously. Another wave of power surged through the fabric of the void. Moments like shooting stars erupted, Snapshots of joy and sorrow flooded their minds like water cascading from a broken dam. Secrets and wishes they had long suppressed emerged in a chaotic whirlpool. Douglas gasped, "These are our memories. If we can control them." "Exactly," Rachel responded, determination filling her voice. "We'll use them against him. We're not just fighting for that cube. We're fighting for our lives, our truths." With renewed energy, they focused on the swirling images, memories sparking like fireworks. Heart-thumping laughter, tears shed in the dark, triumphs celebrated together, and terrible losses. The emotions coursed raw, real, and nothing the hooded figure could twist against them. "Now!" Douglas yelled, and they stretched out their hands towards the heart of the glowing chaos. The rift around them exploded, colors erupting like molten glass. They felt a release, a rush of clarity as they channeled their joys and pains, morphing them into a singular force directed at the hooded figure. He staggered back, confusion crossing his features for a split second before fury took hold. "You think you can control it?" he shrieked, as the cube blazed with unpredictable energy. Pain and echoes of laughter melded into a powerful flicker. Douglas realized they were transforming the tide. This was their moment. Yet the fear still loomed. What if it wasn't enough? They surged forward together, a symbiotic front of emotions personified, each step weaving their shared past into the present. They weren't just fighting for control. They were fighting to reclaim their very souls. But as their collective force raised higher, the hooded figure's laughter morphed from arrogance to something more sinister. "You have no concept of what you release." Suddenly, the rift warped, beckoning them into a vortex that felt both exhilarating and suffocating. Would they emerge whole, or would they be lost forever amongst the echoes of what once was? The ground beneath their feet flickered again, and before they could react, the void swallowed them, sealing their fate in darkness. As they vanished, a whisper lingered in the shadows. "Next time, it won't be so easy to escape your past." The world spun back into focus with a harsh jolt. Douglas landed hard on the pavement, his breath escaping in a gasping rush. Frantic and disoriented, he blinked against the glaring light of the sun. Chris' South Cafe outside the park was bustling around him, oblivious to the tempest he had just emerged from. For a fleeting moment, he felt an urge to shrink back from reality, but then he noticed Rachel nearby, scrambling to join him, her hand reaching out like a lifeline. "We made it," he exclaimed, the words sounding foreign on his tongue, as if terror still clung to him. Desperation sparked in her eyes. "But what about the cube? Did we stop them?" He scanned their surroundings. The streets were just as they had been before, alive with the simple cadence of regular life. Hurrying pedestrians filled the sidewalks, oblivious to the chaos he bore within him. The hooded figure, the tall man, it was all right there, but the chaos of the alley had dissolved. Where were they? Had the danger dissipated, evading them entirely? Rachel grabbed his arm. "Douglas, look." He turned to see the glistening cube resting on the table in front of Chris. It sparkled innocently, a siren calling out to wreck souls, yet it felt vastly different now. They had pushed the boundaries, altered time, and crossed paths with their own fears. What would the repercussions be? "We need to get out of here," he whispered decisively, voice grave. "When they find out the past does not let go easily," a new voice interrupted, resonating over the noise of the cafe. It was Chris, standing there with an uncanny calmness. "You just open a path to something you're not prepared for." His eyes held truth and sorrow both, and a chill ran through Douglas. The cube isn't a mere object. It's a beacon for those who wish to reclaim their power. The weight of that thought hit Douglas hard. He turned back to Rachel. "The fight is far from over. We need to choose." "Douglas," Rachel said, determination flooding her voice. "We can't hide anymore. It's about standing up for what's right for our futures. Then we'll fight together," he declared, a fire igniting within him. For every moment we had, for the laughter, the friendship, the memories surged, lifting him as they flickered like the city lights around them. Chris nodded, a knowing smile crossing his face. You'll need allies, and you've got more than you think. Right now, a storm is brewing beneath the surface, and choices will define the outcome. Douglas took a deep breath and turned back, the cube flickering under the bright cafe lights. We need to find others, rally them. What if we exposed everything? Rachel clenched her fists, determination etched on her face. Then let us uncover the truth before it's too late. In that moment of unity, they both felt the overwhelming ripples of possibility. The past laced its fingers around their hearts, but now they had forged themselves as warriors ready to confront that darkness. As they stepped into the bustling chaos of life outside the cafe, the loud honks of cars, the chatter of friends, laughter draping warmth across the scenery, they knew the fight would stretch ahead of them like a winding road. Yet they stood strong, ready to face what lay beyond, propelled by the promises of tomorrow. They would unearth the mystery, come what may. They would rekindle hope amidst shadows and wield it like a sword against those who thrived on fear. Douglas's heart raced with a recognition that happiness was not just a fleeting moment. It could be forged in the fight to reclaim it, and as the sun dipped low in the horizon, casting long shadows, a flicker of a smile crept across his face. The weight was lifting, and there was exhilaration in the uncertainty of all. They would navigate the darkness together, and together they would win. Dear reader, are you with us? Join the fight for the truth, for lives changed, and for stories yet to be told. If you felt that spark, if you're ready to stand with Douglas and Rachel, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait one more second to join the community that thrives on powerful stories like this. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and ensure you're always in the loop. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments with your theories and reactions. What do you think comes next for them? And don't forget to share this video with at least 5 friends who deserve to experience this ride alongside you. Let us spark a movement together.